What's up everybody, BioBen here, back with another video. So, recently I checked out the Nurburgring 1967 mod in Assetto Corsa and downright loved it. As you can see, on the right we have 1967 and on the left we have the modern Nürburgring. Coming down the main straight here, we're going to compare the two circuits over an entire lap. Obviously, I'm not just showing the Nordschleife on the modern circuit. I'm showing a bit of the Grand Prix track because it does actually kind of follow the old school bit of the circuit. We do have the VLN cutout. I'm running the VLN layout here. And of course, I'm rocking a Shelby Cobra. The link to this mod is down in the description below. As we listen to that fantastic V8 rumble, we're coming into the VLN cutout. This eliminates the Dunlop hairpin, and we're going up the hill now. We're waiting on the right for the old track because obviously all of this rigmarole is not in the old track. There is the Südschleife though. Stay tuned to see that. I've never driven the Südschleife and I'm excited to try it out. Almost there where we meet up at the sync point. Coming down the back straight. Back side of the pit lane here as well. Through the chicane. And back along the pit lane on the old circuit. And out onto the Nordschleife proper. So the one thing I will say is that you never think of the Nordschleife as easy, but when you drive the old circuit, you realize it's gotten a lot easier than it was. I know that's a bit of a contradiction, but it's true. The lap on the left on the modern Nordschleife, I was driving maybe 80%, maybe even less. It was one of those really easy laps that you just kind of take to get a feel for the car. I was trying to go as slow as possible because I knew the old Nordschleife was bumpy, and very slow. Also, I think the tarmac grip levels are different. So as we go through the Hotzenbach, you can see the scenery is relatively similar. We got trees, a little bit of a hill. I will say the 1967 circuit is a mod, so it's not complete, it's in beta. As we go down the hill here, and on towards our run towards Kuttelbacher. Over the bridge there, the bridges are much more noticeable on the old circuit. That is one thing I will say. As I go off the circuit a bit there on the modern version, overcooked it a bit. Through Flugplatz here, this is probably where the 1967 mod suffers the most. Obviously it's missing some scenery, but then again I haven't really looked at that many photos. I'm willing to give the modder the benefit of the doubt. Again, the link to this mod is in the description below. Over Schwedenkreuz and down towards Arenberg. Again, even these little additions of curbs, you don't actually really run the curbs much at the Nürburgring, but they kind of give you reference points to look for and where to aim the car. Down into the foxhole here. No Armco here on the old circuit, just hedgerow. No wonder they called it the Green Hell. We're gonna sync up throughout the lap. I tried to make it as easy to compare the two sections as possible. We go through Adenauer Forst and down towards Metzgefeld. So the actual layout of the track is very similar. I would say what's happened over the years is obviously there's Armco and a few gravel traps, but the curbs is one big thing. They put those in kind of to indicate where you should point the car, like I said. No TV tower in the old circuit, obviously. Run down the hill here. Lots of tire squeal. obviously another difference is the bumps. I would say they've smoothed out a lot of the bumps as the years go on, and I've actually heard that from actual drivers. That's one of the reasons the lap times keep going down, is that the bumps are actually gradually being smoothed out, and as the tarmac surface gets grippier, you can run faster laps. Down through Versiphen, and down the hill towards Exmuller. Obviously, the mountain in the background still the same. The amount of fans maybe has changed. And down into town here, obviously the big noise deadening barriers there in the modern version of the circuit. Over Exmuller here and up the hill. Another big thing on the modern circuit is the large number of fire extinguishers and marshal's posts that are put around the circuit. Some marshal's post on the outside here. Fire extinguishers are all over the circuit. As we almost lose it there. Alright, up the hill. Some little variations here in kind of the severity of the kinks and how close the trees are, obviously. It actually feels very different when you're driving it because of those lack of known reference points. You might drive a version and look for a certain tree or a bit of Armco or even the curb there, and it's not here in the old version, so it's actually a bit difficult. I know the Nürburgring pretty well, and I still have a bit of trouble with the old version, especially when there's a few tighter corners. Up here at Clustertal, there's not really as much runoff as there is in the modern version. It's just straight up to the grass. Again, there's the cutout for the old steep hill where they used to test cars on a really steep gradient. Up to the carousel, this hasn't really changed much though, has it? Graciola carousel. Used to ditch hook the road, so they just paved it in concrete and made it a corner. It's much tighter than it looks also. That bridge, footbridge there, is not there in the modern version of the circuit, which is interesting. You actually can't really easily get to the inside, the right-hand side of the circuit, unless you're a marshal. There's no real observation points inside the circuit. They'll probably tell you off and tell you to go to the other side. All down the left here over Hoacht, there are marshals and spectators galore at that cutout there in the modern circuit. That's where that old steep hill meets up. We go down into Wipperman here. This is where the track starts to get a little bit different. Some of the radii are a bit tighter. Things have been smoothed out in modern years. We'll see that as we go down into Brunchen next. See, I'm taking it real cautious because here, this is a bit tighter down into Brunchen. It keeps tightening, and then it cuts back real hard. Absolutely no runoff here. And there's this big dip here down into the bridge, which is still there, under Brunchen there. No runoff again on the left. People bin it in the modern circuit. You don't want to do that in the old one. Ice curve here, very tight. Up the hill down towards the jump. This corner always gets me. It's much tighter in the old circuit than in the modern circuit. And we come down to the jump here. Again, tightening corners. Down into the Flanskarten now, taking it real easy because those trees are right there. You don't want to go off here. Pretty big crest there. Probably caught air back in the day. And the Beloff S is much tighter. With the new curbs, you can kind of run it, straight line it, up the Schwalbenschwanz. Another big difference coming up here. We go over the bridge, which is still there, by the way. and up to Schwalbenschwanz proper. Going kind of slow here. Didn't want to bin it at this point. And into the Kleines Carousel. You can see there's a bit of tarmac on the inside here, but on the old circuit it's just grass, which I actually really like. That's probably the coolest thing that I wish still existed on the modern Nürburgring. Alright, we're almost there. Just the Dottinger Hohe, right? After Galgenkopf here. Almost home, but in the old circuit, it's a bit more daunting. This tight run down the Dottinger Hohe. Still lots of crests in the old circuit. You can see the modern circuit's been smoothed out, been leveled out. Still bumpy, but fast. On the old circuit, we got hedgerow right up next to the circuit. You're going flat out, probably 160, 170 miles an hour, even back then. And you got hedges and trees right up against it. Again, the green hell. Under the Bilstein Bridge, which wasn't Bilstein Bridge then. Into the Tiergarten. Again, hedgerow right up to the edge of the track, no runoff. And this very tight chicane here, even more scary than in the modern version of the circuit. Back across the bridge here and down to the start-finish line. Oh man, I love those old signs. And across the line. So, there we have it, comparing old and new.